video series of Exposed, Mobility Impaired, Denied. If you've watched my last video, you kind of see a little bit of basically my origin story to how I eventually became mobility impaired. It took 19 years, well, 18, because I've been unable to long distances for maybe a year and a half. And I'm in a electric wheelchair, which I'm not too fond of. But hopefully I can get one that will fit my needs. I actually even kind of sketched one out of what would be the ideal chair for me, but I might. Anyway, so I've been doing a lot of videos about the laws, and I am still determined to make some kind of change, I'm trying to advocate not just for myself, but for others. I am tired of hearing, well, go online and shop for it. You can do that. Sure. I use a grocery delivery service, but sometimes when I don't need to get a lot of groceries and I feel up to it, I will use my mobility scooter to go to the market, Market 32. That is a local supermarket in my area, and it's across the street from the apartment complex which I live in. There are it's in a plaza. There are other places in that plaza that I can go in if I use my wheelchair. It's an electric wheelchair. It's not the greatest, but you buy what you can afford. And then I can go and pick up, like the Dollar Tree. I have to go use my wheelchair because my scooter would not be able to maneuver around the thinner, skinnier aisles, things like that. And I don't always have to go do a lot of shopping there, but they have some things that I like to go buy, such as like arts and crafts stuff that I do to pass the time. Anyway, and I do videos every time I go out now, whether it's on my scooter or my wheelchair, I mount my camera. It's a Sako Brave 4. Eventually I hope to upgrade to Brave 6 or Brave 8, excuse me. But so like I said, you get what you can afford. And you do what you need to do and figure out how to do things in order for you to be able to do stuff. And there are more things wrong with me besides being mobility impaired. And I just try to muddle through and push forward. I get out of bed in the morning, I get dressed, and I decide what I'm going to do depending on how I feel. When I first wake up, I'm like, but then I do. Because I found that, when I don't feel good and I'm laying down, I don't get really bored. But then you don't feel good, so you can't really do much. So I've been actually watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I have found some of my favorite YouTube videos, and I like watching them. And I was surprised that I am interested in what they accomplish. And then there are others that I'm not surprised that I like them. I was shown by other people, and some things I don't get, but who knows? I get a lot of stuff. anyways, because I've figured out that I am one person and one voice, and it is not um, loud enough, I guess, vocal enough. So this basically, I was doing research, and there's a lot of do that a lot. Sorry, my mind is kind of cloudy. I had the other day, so I'm a little off. I have to be careful. And anyways, so I was doing some research on the number of people in New York State, and it's just New York State because that's where I live. But if any of the things that I talk about are affecting other people in other states, then you can contact me and I can help you. You know, if you want to write to your governor, or my governor, but if you want to write to the governor, you want to write to your senators, your congressmen, your legislators, to help make change. The American Disability Act of 2010 is a federal act, and so is the Agricultural Barrier Act of 1968, which I am trying to get abolished and then added content from that, reworded, re-regulated, and added to the American Disabilities Act, because I feel that is why should there be two separate requirements for federal buildings and their access, and then all other public buildings? There shouldn't. If the federal building is accessible, then that means I should be able to wheel myself in and not have to hold the door while I'm trying to maneuver my wheelchair. What if I had a manual wheelchair where I could manually wheel myself? I've had one, but I can't use it because of my hands. And all the stuff that I use, just a note here, I used to use a walker. I use a 4-footed cane because they're very sturdy and heavy. After a while, I was not able to use those items. I bought a manual wheelchair temporarily, and it was hard for me to maneuver because of my hands. Besides having tremors, I have rheumatoid arthritis, and my hands, they don't really straighten out too much. And that was very difficult. But aside from that, those items that I no longer use, I donated to a very good cause in Saratoga County. It's called SAIL, and they're in Wilton now. And they provide mobility devices and other devices that would help other people. They take donations and then they use those items that are in good working condition, almost new. Well, mine were almost new. I kept very good care of them. I hope the person that gets my walker doesn't mind having Wonder Woman stickers all over it. But giving them, I wanted to do it for so long, and I was finally able to have my son and his friend take those items and bring them. And they said that they were extremely grateful because there are a lot of people in need who cannot afford mobility aids, or their insurance covers part of it, or they don't cover it at all. Sometimes you have to jump through hoops just to get a wheelchair to prove that your feet don't work half the time. Anyone doctor knows that. Sometimes it's hard to do that. So my son raised a GoFundMe for my mobility scooter, and I got that one first after my manual wheelchair. And then I saved up for a Clover Clover electric wheelchair. I bought on Amazon. It was like $900 something. It was a cheaper version of other ones. And so I got what I could get because I had to save up for it. And it is not my ideal wheelchair. And the main thing is because it's not for one, it's not all terrain. The wheels in the front, they rotate if they go back or forward. And also the battery is focused more on the back. So a lot of the weight is on the back. So if I'm going up a hill, I have to lean forward, even though I do have wheelie bars, so I don't tip backwards. I have fallen forwards because since the wheels rotate, I got stuck in a crevice and I had fallen. That issue has been resolved, not the outcome I wanted, but better than nothing. In your state, and I'm just going to run off a few statistics, and I got this information from the CDC. In 12% of adults in New York State have what they call select functional disability types. It could be mobility, cognitive, independent living, hearing, being deaf or blind, vision, or seriously, even wearing glasses can be that, having self-care difficulty. Over 3 million, almost 4 million adults in New York have a disability, which is basically 27% or 1 in 4 adults in New York. There are other disabilities such as depression, obesity, smoking, diabetes, heart disease, and long COVID. Disability cost is over 71 billion per year, and it's 39% of the state's healthcare spending. You do have to be disabled, and if you're disabled, you can get Social Security SS5s, which is social supplemental income, which is based off of your income, and that's how much your grant would be, or your benefit. If you have SSD, which is Social Security disability, that is based off of your work record. When you go to a job and you earn wages, there's a small amount that you contribute to SSD. And that's not the same as, Social Security taxes or whatever. You actually put in you add to Social Security your disability based on how many work credits you have. You're allowed 4 work credits per year. And to get disability, you have to have worked within a certain amount of time, and you need to have a certain amount of work credits. I applied for Social Security disability in 2013. I did not receive it. I spent years with appeals and denials and appeals and denials. And then finally, a couple of years ago, I actually was able to get SSI. And since I consider self-employed, whether I work or not, because I'm an author and receive royalties sometimes, then that counts as work credits. So once I was able to get that, even though I was an SSI, following year, I was able to get SSD and SSI, and that's because I worked. However, if you are a disabled adult that you had received, say, benefits from the death of a parent, and while you were a child, and then you are still disabled, you will get, it'll transform into getting, it's called the adult child disability benefit. Basically, I say as an example for my son, when their father, my three sons, when their father passed away, they received his death benefit. He took how much he would normally get if he had retired or lived. And then they divided it between the three of them. And then once the child turns 18 or graduates high school, whatever happens second, they no longer receive the benefit. However, if one of those children is disabled, and mine was my son, and so when his benefit was going to be canceled, it actually was transformed into SSD, Security Disability, because he was an adult child with a deceased parent. He actually receives a little bit of money now because I am on Social Security disability. It ends up evening out to everything that he was already getting. So, but when you look at I know statistics seem like boring numbers, blah, blah, blah. But think about the number of people that you see on a daily basis. There are disabilities that you can't see. If I looked at my son, well, I do look at my son. If anyone saw my son and just looked at him, they would not know that he was disabled or what his disabilities are. Even if you spoke to him, you would not know what his disabilities are. And I'm not getting into what they are. But if you see someone in a wheelchair or using a walk, they could be disabled, they could just be elderly. And elderly, as you get older, you have trouble walking. You could have other reasons why you would need some type of mobility aid, or some type of service, or accessibility featuring. If you hearing impaired, you use sign language, you may use cochlear implants, you may use hearing aids, and some you can see, and then they make these wonderful ones now that you don't even know what someone else is wearing. They're not these big bulky things with strings. Remember my great grandfather, he would turn off he would pull this little box out of his pocket. And when my great grandmother would start like talking and talking and talking, and he didn't want to listen, he would just turn the volume down. But I remember the wires and these things around his ears. And of course, that was way back in the 70s when my grandmother, a couple years before she passed away, got these hearing aids. They're like these earbuds that stick in and you don't see. And she said they were just pretty amazing how well she could hear after that, and them being so small, and she had to learn how to charge them and things like that. They can be quite expensive though, and insurance covers part of it, and it's only because you can get, depending on your policy, you can get reimbursed for having to pay. Again, you can do payment plans or not, depending on if you have money in savings or whatever. If you are blind or you have trouble seeing, I wear glasses, but I can see really up close. I've been losing my vision, especially my farsighted vision. And my doctor said I had a choice: see far away or see up close. Since I don't drive anymore, I chose to see up close. And even that is difficult. But, if someone is blind They may be wearing sunglasses. They may have a seeing eye dog. If they call that something else, I apologize. I don't have all the terminology for everything, and I don't mean to use old phrases for disabled persons. A seeing eye dog may be now a service dog, probably. Um, I've seen people with service dogs, and some, and I've seen this is do not pet. There obviously is a reason for that. I didn't ask the person. It's not like this is why you can pet their service dog. Some they don't mind that you do, and others because they're on task for that particular, they're human, basically. For their particular human, they are there for it. They're trained to help that person for whatever they needs they have. And I do know that dogs and cats, I have cats, they know when I'm not feeling well. They can sense it. I have a friend for baby who is, he's a cockapoo and he's beautiful and his name is Hyper. And when he behaves, Hyper brings him over. And one time I was having an awake seizure and I lay down. I finally was able to get from the sofa to my bed. And when I laid on my bed and I was still shaking, kind of coming out of it, Hyper laid right across my chest until I calmed down and just made sure I was okay. And he knows I'm his friend. So, anyways, animals are a treasure, and they also know a lot more than you think they do, and they can sense when you're not feeling good. We have a kitty that if he hears you coughing or sneezing, he'll come in and he's so concerned, and you have to let him know that you're okay. And then I have a cat who has anxiety, so I take care of him. And he has anxiety and he sits and listens to me and minds. And, there's a lot of things that happen in a person's life, and you are not always in their shoes, in their chair, walking like they do. You may have similar disabilities. Sometimes the reasons that you have that is the same. And other times it's because they're different. My disability was because I was almost killed in a domestic violence incident. And if you've watched the previous video about that, that just kind of is like my origin story. I think it's important, and I wish I could reach out to more people. I wish more people would subscribe and share my information, because I would like to have some feedback, maybe make some connections with other people who are in a similar situation. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos where you have people showing you how to get in and out and how to load your wheelchair in a car. And then I was watching one, and one was a physical therapist. And I thought, well, that's fine. He's a physical therapist. He works with disabled people. But there are disabled people that could also show you their tricks on how to get around, and also show how difficult it is. You know how many people, and this is funny, because everybody's like, oh, I love your chair. And I'm like, oh, thank you. I don't. My chair, I'm sketched out what I perfect would be fit for me. But anyways, so I could do everything I would need to do with my chair. But having to use it, if I could walk distances, I would be okay. My fear is when I walk, and I don't always feel my feet, so sometimes I fall. And if I have to walk in a place that's just too narrow to go to places in my chair, then I have a big, strong, strapping son to hold on to. So, yes, this has been kind of a mishmash of various things. And moving forward, I still have more letter writing to do, not just to governments and legislature, but also to local businesses and business chains who have yet to respond to me. I will continue to write letters until I don't know who to write to anymore. So that, something like that, see what happens. But if you are in a similar situation and you're having issues getting around because you want to be independent and you could, if you didn't have to go 10 miles out of your way, exaggeration, just to go in on a ramp to go into a place. When they design for accessibility, they think that, oh, let's just have a ramp that's like 30 miles long, exaggeration, I hope, and let them worry about it. You know, they're in a chair. It doesn't matter. They can speed up. Sure, we can speed up. What if we were using walkers? Those ramps aren't just for wheelchairs, but use bikes, skateboards, scooters, children's scooters, mobility scooters. Anyway, yeah, reach out to me. Let me know. You know, I keep doing research. I keep researching my own conditions because things change as you get older. And to be honest, at 52 years old, I did not think that I would have to use a wheelchair at all. This has been Amy Shannon, another episode of Exposed Mobility Impaired Denied. And I hope that all of you listening, please subscribe. Click on the bell for notifications. This YouTube channel provides a multitude of videos that I do. And this one, I think, is my most important playlist. So thank you again. Be safe and be well.